Hello, you guys. Welcome to the Ranting Shop. It's me, Melissa. Today we're gonna be doing the review for Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 3, Episode 11. Now, in this particular episode, a lot of things happened, so I'm gonna focus on the most prominent things that took place. The first thing that I realized or noticed was the meeting with Mel and Destiny. Mel, from Destiny's perspective, is somewhat like a bodyguard, always guarding Miss Tiffany, and I do see that. I always see Melody feeling the need to have to step in on behalf of Tiffany when Tiffany is the one who starts the issue. And we will see later why she starts the issues, but most of the time it does seem like this Melody's always there to defend her friend. And I suppose maybe Destiny feels some type of way because you're supposed to be my friend. Like, we've been through thick and thin together, and you're not having that same energy for me. Why? You know? And Tiffany is playing herself as the victim to her husband for the second time. And she's saying that people are trying to suppress her true self and change her into somebody else. But the situation is, or the fact of the matter is, nobody's trying to change you. What the issue is that you are a messy person and your husband doesn't seem to hold you accountable. He doesn't seem to see what the issue is. And that is very unfortunate because it's rubbing everybody the wrong way. I mean, if it's rubbing everybody the wrong way, why is it not your wife's issue? Why is it everybody else's problem? Now, I said, is Louis trying to say that Destiny is jealous of him and Tiffany? Because that's how he phrased it. He was like, okay, she sees us, we're married, we're this, we're that. She just got divorced. So Louis, his whole analysis of everything of Destiny's behavior is that it's jealousy. Now, do I think it's necessarily jealousy? Not really. I just feel like Destiny has an issue with just Tiffany, just who Tiffany is, how she is, and just her approach to things. She just comes across as very fake and inauthentic. And as much as she likes to call herself transparent, if we look at the dictionary to look for the definition of transparency, we will see that transparency is everything that Miss Tiffany is not. According to the dictionary, when you're transparent, you invite trust by revealing that you have nothing to hide. You establish yourself as an honest, credible person in the eyes of others. The prospect of being open and vulnerable may make you nervous, but the digital revolution has made transparency a matter of survival. We could skip that last part, but that was an awesome definition of transparency. It's one's ability to be fully open about their lives and their experiences and what they've been through. We've barely heard anything about Tiffany, and yet she continues to use the word transparency. I haven't seen any transparency from her yet. All I've seen from Tiffany is her divulging other people's business. That's it. And that's not what transparency is. So Mel was talking to Destiny, and she thinks that the problem is Destiny's delivery. And yes, Destiny does come across very much extra in her responses to what Tiffany says. That it's definitely extra. Somebody else would never have such a strong reaction. But I feel like because she does not like Tiffany and maybe has figured out that Tiffany is a messy person, she already has these negative connotations attached to Tiffany. Tiffany irritates her. So right now, Tiffany kind of has the power because Tiffany knows that Destiny is irritated by her causes her to react in a very strong way that somebody who wasn't bothered would not react in. But I said, you're worried about Destiny's reaction to very much the shade that Tiffany does throw sometimes, because she does throw shade, but you have no problem with Tiffany and her delivery. And that's just the issue. It's like you're finding other problems with Destiny and you don't find any issue, or you barely speak or discuss the issue with Tiffany. And she's not the only one that has issues with Tiffany. I mean, yeah. So Tisha divulges the girls' night discussions. Tisha is affected by essentially the rumors of Marceau's infidelity. That's what's causing her to be insecure. And I spoke about this last time. I mentioned, yes, you notice that gradually Tisha began to be less confident. Could that have been because of you, Marceau? And it turns out that it very well is because of you. Rumors have been going out there about him having multiple girlfriends, him having side babies and all these things. And Tisha, because she barely gets her husband is barely at home, her husband is barely spending time with the family, she doesn't know how to feel. Because she cannot really account for his whereabouts. She doesn't know what he's doing when he's not in the house. And that is why trust is so important. And I feel like she's beginning to gradually not trust him. And that is causing the cracks in their relationship. And another big thing is they don't communicate with each other. I feel like Tisha, maybe she feels nervous to be very bold about what she really wants from him. And she's, like, I suppose, a little scared about how he will react to what she wants. You know, I mentioned outside forces are breaking the walls down. Why? Because there are already cracks within the marriage. So it's not gonna take much for outside forces to fully break the walls down. Because it's already breaking, it's already cracking. So Marceau's thing was, why listen to people that are not in your situation? Basically referring to Melody, freshly divorced, and Tiffany and Louis, newly married. But what we're missing is that Tiffany and Louis, they were married before. So technically they're newlyweds, but they've had the experience of marriage. So they're not spring chickens. It's not like they're completely oblivious to the problems in marriages. So for that, I had to, defend them a little bit. And then my thing is, the reason why she's listening to all these outside parties and their opinions and stuff is because she just does not feel confident in her husband. She doesn't feel confident in him enough to trust him and to allow him to kind of lead in regards to his opinions and points of view as far as they should both be moving. And another thing is, he's saying, I was saying that he doesn't spend time with his family because he's doing what he thinks he needs to do, which is to provide income for the family. And he's working so hard because he wants to create generational wealth. He wants to have the freedom to spend time with his family. But I feel like for some reason, even if Marceau did get time to spend with his family, I feel like he wouldn't spend time with them. Because I feel like Tisha annoys him. And I also feel like he doesn't want to be too much around his children because he feels like that is Tisha's job. So I feel like he's saying he's working so hard and he's doing all this stuff. But I don't think Tisha bought the excuse. I feel like she knows that he can be at home more if he wanted to be. And he doesn't want to be because I feel as if he's not happy at home. And I feel like Tisha feels that as well. Marceau doesn't want any surprise vow renewal because Tisha proposed a vow renewal. And as Maurice said, you already know this man doesn't like surprises. And I also feel like he doesn't like PDA, public displays of affection. So I don't think he'd be comfortable displaying his love in front of people that he just doesn't feel comfortable around. You know? And I said if there are cracks internally, it makes it easy for the outside to demolish what's left of it. And that's what we're seeing here. There's a communication issue, there's trust issues, there's time issues. All of these things need to be addressed. And then we talk about the messy Whitlows because Tisha goes to them to talk about the plans for the night. And although she says that yes, they did plan to do the vow renewal thing, her husband has told her he doesn't want to do it. So she wants to respect his wishes. Now, instead of them just leaving good enough alone, they're pushing this woman to go against her husband's wishes and do the vow renewal anyways. You see how messy they are? And somebody was like, oh, I know why the Whitlows are here. They're here to cause chaos. Duh. We saw that the very first episode. They came to cause chaos. All I saw in what they were doing with Tisha was negative. Because if I, as your husband, already told you that I don't want you to do something, I expect you to respect my wishes. No matter how much of an a-hole Marceau is, he is your husband and his wishes should be respected. And them encouraging her to do that, I just thought that was extremely selfish of them to want her to do, knowing that Tisha is the type of person where she acts like she is confident and thinks for herself, but I feel like she's very easily influenced and easily affected by what people say and do or tell her. And we saw this in this particular episode. So it definitely, she lacks confidence. So far we're seeing a lot of things Tisha says she's not. She is. She lacks confidence. That is 100% true. And we're seeing that through her actions. It's like this type of behavior where you're unsure of which person to believe, which person to trust, which person to take advice from, your husband or people you barely know. That's crazy to me. So I said Martel is a fool because when they stopped at the wedding chapel, he goes, well, is it that Mel wants to propose? Why would Mel want to surprise you with a wedding when she was very adamant about divorcing you? Where's the logic in that? That makes no sense. So I laughed at that because that was extremely funny to me. Because Martel looked like an yes, saying that or coming to that conclusion. He looked good in his pink suit though, I have to say. They changed the vow renewal to more of an open renewal. So I suppose when Marceau found out that they had to go or they did or they whatever the case is, he was like, okay, I'm not doing the vow renewal, but we can make it an open thing. So anybody that wants to renew their commitment or whatever, they could do that. So the Whitlows chose to do it. And even after Marceau was very uncomfortable with the whole thing, they were still pushing him and Tisha to do it. Now, Tisha had no problems doing it. It's Marceau that didn't want to do it. Now, what I did not like was the group kept pushing him to publicly verbalize his affection and appreciation for his wife. And I just feel like that made the situation even more awkward because he clearly looked uncomfortable. And for you guys to be pushing the issue regardless, I felt like it was very selfish. And as I said before, yes, Marceau can be an a-hole. He's a very stubborn individual. So if you guys have known Marceau as long as you say you have, why push him to do something he clearly doesn't want to do? Obviously, he's not going to change his mind. He's a person where if he thinks how he thinks, he's just going to think that way. Nobody's going to convince him otherwise. You know, so they pushed the issue, and every time I looked at Tisha, I was just so embarrassed for that woman. But she should have known better. She should have just not went to the chapel. Marceau feels as if doing this whole vow renewal thing in Vegas kind of cheapens his wedding experience, cheapens marriage. And he didn't want it to seem like a cheap thing. He wanted it to be a very serious thing. So after that whole situation, Tiffany and Louis renew their vows, and Marceau was like, them renewing their vows is like reheating food that's already cooking, which is basically very true because you guys have not stood any test of time. What are you renewing vows for? But I feel like if Tisha already paid for it, they might as well have used it. However meaningless it did seem, they had to get their money's worth. So I say Marceau is stubborn AF. Tisha should have known better. She looked really dumb, and she really did. And then I said that conversation that Melody had with Tisha was pointless. I mean, she's already embarrassed as it is. She doesn't want you talking to her, telling her all the things Marceau should have done and could have done because she knows that. And I feel like Tisha just wanted to crawl into a hole and cover it. She was extremely embarrassed. And I don't feel like she wanted to have any conversations with him whatsoever. So the Gordon Ramsay restaurant is where they went for dinner. And Marceau was telling his wife in the ITMs, I don't have a problem paying for what I want to do. And I was like, shade. Because unlike Tisha, he wasn't interested in the vow renewal. So that was kind of a waste of money on their part. But the food, he definitely wants to do that. So I say they both don't listen to each other. It's like Tisha hears what the husband says, but for some reason, she just does not trust that he actually is serious about what he's saying. I feel like she feels like he's lying and she has to prove via action whether he's telling the truth about his feelings or not. I feel like she doesn't know if he is joking or being sarcastic or being genuine. But if by now you don't know or you feel like you have to test your husband, do you really know who you married? Martel said there will be a celebration because they were going through all the big celebrations and the weddings and the anniversaries and things everywhere. And Martel was like, I mean, I am divorced to Melody, but that doesn't mean that there will not be like couple trips later on in the future, because he says he does plan to get married, right? It doesn't have to be Melody, but he does plan to be married. Do I feel like Martel wants Melody? I don't. I just feel like he says things to flatter her or to flatter the group, but I don't feel like he really means it. So Marceau addresses the Whitlows. And he says he doesn't like conversations he had with his boys getting back to his woman and then getting back to him. And yes, the core of the issue is that it is a communication issue between Tisha and Marceau. But I still have to be on Marceau's side a bit, because I feel like it wasn't Tiffany's place. Neither was it her job to relay the conversation she had with her husband to Tisha. I don't feel like it was her business. Maybe she did it in good faith, but I still don't feel like it was her business to address Tisha about her marital situation. I just don't feel like it. And then Louis was like, if I have a problem with my wife, I'm not going to the streets and talking. You're gonna be talking directly to your wife, and I agree. If your problem is with your wife, have a discussion with your wife so that nobody else gets to have an opinion or input in your marriage. So the same way Marceau keeps talking about, oh, don't let outside forces influence you. You should know your relationship. You should know your partner. But you also giving information out to the streets. So you cannot expect for information and people's opinions not to circle back to you. It's just what happens. Now, as opposed to, they were talking about happiness and stuff like that, and Melody was talking about, instead of talking about happiness, let's talk about depression. And Marceau spoke about his depression and his issues, and he felt like he feels like happiness comes secondary to commitment. So he talked about him feeling depressed and unhappy, and they were talking about like, Marceau, he said he found success but had been more depressed. And then the other people were saying, especially I think Kimmy said, you have to prioritize being happy for yourself. He says he prefers being even and not getting his hopes up high because he doesn't want to be disappointed. So in order to not feel that disappointment, he prefers to just allow things to just be how it is. Just expect the bare minimum and expect that to carry you on. You can't live a happy life, that mindset. He mentioned balancing that 0 was risking depression. He's already at 0 and he's trying to balance that. That's not something that will end positively, because you're already going into it with almost like a hopelessness. So how could you expect any happiness from that? So he was saying like, although he doesn't necessarily prioritize happiness, he doesn't want to be depressed. And right now he's in a state in his marriage where he's not happy. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with Tisha. I think it probably does. Maybe there needs to be a lot more communication between them, because I feel like there's a lot of things that are not being said. Next week's preview, Tiffany and Destiny will maybe try to work it out. The guys speak on Marceau's inability to enjoy his life. He feels like he's under constant stress and he feels way behind, I suppose, on his life goals. Tells Tisha she should listen more, and Tisha looked very offended. But I have to agree with him somewhat, because I feel like some things that he tells Tisha goes right over her head. Or she listens, or she hears him, but she acts like she didn't hear what he said, or she acts as if she did not understand what he meant. And I said, I don't think she trusts him enough to listen to him. You could hear somebody, but to listen to them means that you're internalizing their words. And I don't think she does that. She takes it into one ear, it comes out of the other ear, and then you'd swear they never spoke about the situation. And I feel like it's because she doesn't trust his words. So she doesn't listen. And that's something that you're going to have to work on. And Martel doesn't want babysitters raising his kids. He's talking to... Who does he talk to? Does he talk to Louis? And then he mentions his kids are actually in the vicinity or are being raised by babysitters. And he doesn't want babysitters raising his kids. So he's going to have a discussion with Melody. They basically have split custody of the children. I think each parent has the kids 2 weeks at a time, I think, or a week at a time. I don't know. So Melody is saying when she's with them, she wants them to be with her. Yes, they might be with a nanny or a babysitter, but they're with her during her time. As opposed to Martel, she feels like she's not gonna give her children to Martel when it's not Martel's time to have the kids. So if that means getting somebody else to help her, she will, as opposed to giving Martel the children. And I just feel like I understand where Martel is coming from. Because why not give him the kids if you're not able to look after them? Why pay a babysitter to take care of them instead? That's their father. You know, so that just speaks to how Melody sees Martel. She prefers to leave her kids with babysitters than to give them to their dad, even when it's not his turn to have the kids. I think that sounds insane. I feel like she also doesn't trust Martel to keep her kids safe, to keep her kids, you know, out of the side woman business. So that's why I suppose she is hesitant about giving him the children most of the time. But we're gonna see how that works out during next episode. Hey you guys, I just wanted to read something that Tisha posted on her social media in response to the most recent episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville. She said or posted, "Girl, I got you. I now realize that the person I've been waiting on to show up for me is and has always been me. The thing I would have told my younger self, girl, we often look for validation outside of ourselves, but it's important that we love and understand the person in the mirror. Trust yourself, know yourself, forgive yourself, be tough on yourself, pamper yourself, adore yourself, be patient with yourself, push yourself, and most importantly, learn to love yourself." Hashtag countdown to 40 begins. Hashtag Letitia Scott. Hashtag the making of Tisha. Hashtag LAMH. Hashtag 1006. Yeah. So it doesn't really seem as if it's divorce sounding. It doesn't sound like any divorce. It sounds like her being lost in her marriage and her trying to find herself within her marriage. And I feel like from the beginning of the season, I feel like that's what she's been trying to do. She's been trying to find herself in her marriage. I believe she lost herself a long time ago and became what Marceau wanted her to be, but she wasn't what she wanted to be. Hopefully that changes and she learns to love herself and be confident within herself so that does not seep into her marriage if she continues or insists on wanting to continue to be in it. I hope that Marceau also works on himself and opens himself up to advice, and especially professional advice to help him with his depression. Anyways, you guys, let me know what you think about this most recent episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Before I go, do you guys remember when they were all at the chapel and Martel says, "Oh, some marriages didn't even last 11 months. And then Miss Destiny took offense because I feel like her marriage didn't even last a year. So then Martha was telling her, no, it's not you, it's not you. Anyways, that was hilarious. See you guys next time. Bye.